Hello, listeners. I'm Arjun, and you're listening to Obo Vinyls, free-willing restoration of the art of telling. As today, we step in the fourth episode, I'm excited and looking forward to share my conversation with someone who just doesn't tell a story or performs a story, but cultivates how and why a story becomes a benefactor in our social lives. It makes us think how story becomes a harnessing factor behind and within the streamlined actions and reactions in between any communication, expression, and participation by each and every one of us, be it a formal communication or an interpersonal communication. So I welcome on board none other than a name of eminence, storyteller and story consultant Priyanka Chatterjee. Hello Priyanka, welcome to our Vinyls. My first question which I would like to ask you is how do you actually perceive a story? What is story to you?
Thank you, Arjun, for the warm welcome. For me, story is anything that surrounds us, that holds us, and that creates our identity. Because be it an individual, be it an organization, be it any community, be it a product or a service, or anything that we see around us has a story. When we speak about, say, any particular place of interest, any monument, that has got a story. The dress, the textile, the fabric that we are wearing, that has got a story. And how we are wearing it, the same sari can be draped in so many different styles. That has also got a story. The place that where we live, the people we live with, the things that we are telling them on a dining table, and the things that we are not telling them on the dining table, that is also a story. So anything that binds two people, that acts like a bridge between two entities. Once again, by two entities I don't mean people, but be it an individual, be it an organization, that binds people, that brings together, that creates their identity, that defines their moral compass, that talks about who they are, where they belong, where they come from, and where they are headed to, is perhaps a story.
So, in a way, we could say that anything in and around our objective reality, it has a story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell me something that we have a very spontaneous instinct of listening to stories. We search for stories as a human being. That whenever we get a tinge that we could hear a story, we kind of stop, we try to listen to it. Story creates an inquisition in our mind. So, do you think this storytelling, listening to stories, uh, I would rather emphasize listening to stories. This is a very primitive as well as a spontaneous human instinct, I could say. So, what do you think about it?
I absolutely agree. Recently, something happened. Last month, I was in Sandakpur, and over there, I was staying in a hotel where there was also a group of travelers. 18 people were there in the group, and they were traveling from Nepal to the Sandakpur top. I accessed it from the India side. They accessed it from the Nepal side. So we had a lot of stories to share. But at the same time, they were in a hurry because they had to head back. So they were gearing up, they were having their breakfast very quickly, and we were having a little chit chat and bonded really well over the breakfast table. And it was finally time to say goodbye. And they were ready, and on bikes, they have put their bags and belongings and finally put their gears on. So, just the point to say goodbye.
Right.
But the guy that I was speaking to, when he was ready to say goodbye. Something else that I remembered and I wanted to share with him. And I said, I had a story that I just got reminded of, but you know what? There will be another time because this is the time to say goodbye. And this still brings a smile, big smile on my face. The guy who was just about to board on his bike, he said, okay, I will wait. Tell me, what story are you reminded of? Because he knew that I'm a storyteller and I was already sharing quite a lot of stories. His group was ready, 17 people were ready, and he just got stopped and he said, okay, tell me what it is. So this is not a one-off incident. I shared this because this is a most recent one. This keeps on happening. And strangely, Arjun, this keeps on happening irrespective of what age that you are dealing with. It happens in a pre-primary, it happens in a high school where the teachers think, okay, they are grown up enough, they don't need any stories. We just need to teach, and in case we are sharing stories with them, they will take us lightly, which is not the case. Perhaps the middle school and the high school children who are having so much scarcity of stories, they need stories much more than the pre-primary or primary children for whom so-called storytelling is meant to. And the same is in corporates or in organizations where the term there is, and it is quite a derogatory term, that, oh, please don't give me another story. Oh, don't cook another story. There is no time for story. So in a way we are thinking about storytelling in a we are trying to project storytelling in a negative light, that storytelling takes time, it's non-authentic. You spoke about reality, stories are based in reality, but whenever in corporate we are referring to stories, it looks like as if we are talking about fairy tale, which clearly it isn't. And then the third pillar that I work with, the communities over there also, uh, it's it's primitive, it's ingrained, and whenever you are trying to deliver something through story, people are all ears. But suppose when you are delivering that through some bullet points, some PPT, you are addressing a group of people about sexual abuse, about domestic violence, about their rights, about menstrual hygiene. Moment you are doing it through information, they have closed their hearts and they have a facade in front of them which is very hard to break. But moment you are trying to deliver a story is not breaking that facade, bringing that wall down, but actually it is creating a passage through that wall to that person's heart.
It's creating a space.
It's creating a space, it's creating a, I like to visual because I like to visualize my stories. I like to imagine that from my heart there is an invisible wall, invisible tunnel that goes through the wall and goes to the other person's heart, because storytelling creates heart to heart connection. So coming back to your question, whatever pillar, whatever audience that you are talking about, people don't realize that actually they are meant for stories. They are ingrained. The storytelling is ingrained in them. But like that person on the top of Sandakfu, he told it up front. Oh, tell me your story. What story you have? And he didn't board on the bike. So many people don't tell upfront, but just know that they're all yours. Moment you are going to tell them stories, they will be yours. Moment you are trying to give them information, they will go to the other service provider.
Right, because information is something which is just, I feel, meeting up a means and end, but story is something, it's about life, touching over the expressions of life, the emotions which are ingredients to the expression. So, story definitely roots us. And it has been happening since ages that stories are being created, stories are being written, stories are being composed, and that stories kind of creates our identity years after years. In a way, just right now, what you point, that something like the word story
It's quietly used in a derogative sense, challenging someone's authenticity of any or validity of anything what someone might tell or what someone might believe in or express. So we tend to hear this thing that gappe mat banao, goppo marish na ka, or else this is another don't come up with a story. So people also kind of relate story with an excuse. uh, why does this happen? I mean, whereas we all know that we cannot live without stories, but still we use the word, don't make up stories.
Arjun, that is where I think the role of a professional storyteller comes in. Because in a way, people ask me like, okay, so how many storytellers are there in your city, in your circuit, and stuff like that. Or at the same time, they ask me how many years you have been telling stories. My answer goes that since last 42 years, I have been telling stories because I am 42. And the first story that I told was the first time that I cried. Perhaps I
Right.
was crying because the space was new. Perhaps I was crying because I was afraid. Perhaps I was crying because I was hungry. Who knows?
Right.
So we are telling stories since donkey's years. And when they ask me the question that how many people are there in the city or in the circuit telling stories, actually we all are storytellers. So what is the difference between a storyteller and a professional storyteller or an arm admi who is not professionally delivering stories, not earning from it, and the person who is trained, who does it day in and day out? I think there lies the difference that how the professional storytellers design and craft stories. Moment you are designing your story, moment you are putting in time, putting in effort, and trying to think about that, okay, this is my narrative, this is my audience, this is my goal, and now I am designing the story to be delivered in this much time. Then I think this objection never comes that, oh, don't give me another story. The problem with so called generalized storytelling is that we tend to be longish. We don't really align ourselves with the goal of our audience, and that's why the story misses a point.
Right. I mean, the very particular grammatical synonyms, how you're going to place it, how you're going to actually
Absolutely.
curate the story, that's important.
Yes. And that's why perhaps, like a moment a professional storyteller comes and puts in their service and effort to curate the story,
Right.
that objection will be dealt with because the primary, as we hear, the customer is the king or the customer is the queen in nowadays in the feminism era. Then of course you are putting the customer in the highest position and aligning their needs with your story need, because most of the, because my background is it comes from MBA marketing, and uh, we have always been told that 90% sales that happens in the entire world is not because of the traits. 90% sales that happens in the world is not because of the traits that you possess, not because of the quality, but rather how you are emotionally connecting with your customer.
Right.
So it is not by sales, I don't mean to say you are just selling a product in the marketplace, but it can be a service that you are delivering. It can be the paka dekha, the final meeting between the bride and the groom before they finalize their marriage. It might be something very personal, what school you are choosing for your ward. Everywhere sales is happening. If you want to convince your spouse for a bachelorette, boys only trip, that there also you are doing sales.
Right.
So how you are emotionally convincing the other person, 90% sales happens through that. So somewhere I feel, the coming back to the question that you asked, that don't give me a story happens when you are not creating that emotional connection and not putting your customer, your target audience, your target group in the role of the king or queen.
Coming to the next question, keeping the lead to this discussion, do you think the structured professional storytelling, it already has its grounding set? Because specifically, if I look into our Indian society or in a Asian country where the ethnical history is quite strong, our ethnical cultural elements are quite organized. It has been, there's a long tradition to it. So in India, we have a tradition of storytelling in the rural culture. There are the bahurupis and other folk performers who actually performs and tells a story in a way that, and it is to be one of the most primordial mode of entertainment in the rural social life, that a bahurupi is visiting, or maybe a mass performer in Bengal, maybe a kind of we can say a limerick performer like Torja Gan. So these performers, they have been um, telling stories, coming, visiting the villages, and telling a story. So this culture was there. So do you think that it somehow has paved the way for urban storytelling today?
Of course, that whatever exists in our history, it has paved the way to the present and the future. So no way we can really, undermine the value of what existed before. But at the same time, when we speak about modern storytelling, while the previous forms has created a base or a foundation on which we are forming the multi-storied building, at the same time, because this whole I would call it a storytelling revolution, because I think it started almost 70 years back, back in US. Gradually the wave has hit India 25, 30 years back. It has started more as a revolution against television, against radio, against the formal broadcasting, bringing people together, and also helping people understand that stories can be crafted based on need. But previously, if you see, there was a one size fits all approach. If you go to a village, there will be a 5 day performance for Babuji Kifar in the nomadic society of uh, Rajasthan. When you looked at Patachitra, the stories of Panchatantra or stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, these were mainly sung and told and drawn on the pat. But now, after this storytelling revolution has started, fascinatingly, because I work a lot with the visual forms as well, I work with the far artists. They have evolved so much. Even during COVID, I remember a beautiful fur that they made for COVID. When looking at the Pottochitra artists from West Bengal, they have created Pottochitra for malaria awareness
Yeah.
and things like, communal harmony, or maybe even menstrual hygiene. So now gradually the modern storytelling wave has not only hit the urban society, but it is gradually again rolling back to where it all started.
Okay.
So
It's
the
covering up the rural society as well, the
yes,
structural storytelling pattern.
yes. So where the forms that we were inspired with, those forms are also changing, and I think this change is a welcome change. This is
Okay.
because to exist, you need to evolve.
How far is this? The responses are coming. How you attaining the responses? I mean, they must be accepting it with quite positive manner.
Of course, I feel, if you stay resistant towards, of course, I feel if you stay resistant towards any change, that's when it breaks. right? But because they are also continuously upgrading themselves, the responses are very good. But at the same time, the danger that I see in this upgradation is somewhere it is helping us to preserve the ancient storytelling forms, because they are trying new formats, trying new topics. But at the same time, the danger of it is that in customizing, while we are trying to please our customers, we are becoming like them and less of
Okay.
us.
Okay.
So, for example, the Pabuji Ki Far used to be a performance that used to go for 5 nights, because they come from an agrarian society. And most of our storytelling formats come from agrarian society and nomadic society, and as our ancestors used to be the hunter and gatherers. So in the evening used to be the free time. That's why when you look at the ancient forms of drama, dance, storytelling, they will be a lot of movements will be on your knees, and they will bend down. Why? And the movements will be big. Why? Kathakali, there's like they're moving 200 muscles on their face, 75 different eye movements. Why? Because the performances in a lot of times used to happen after people from the villages, they used to come back after their work, the day's work,
Right.
and things used to happen in the light of the lamp. So when you are working in the dark, you have to make your expressions big, your
Loud.
body movements loud.
Larger than life.
Yes, and you have to bend down so that you can go closer to your audience who are sitting on the ground. Now, all this beauty that used to take place for multiple days, for example, once again coming back to the for example, they used to the Bhopa and his wife Bhopi will be holding the candle or the lamp, and then there will be multiple pictures. They will be holding it in front of particular one picture, and then the Bhopa will be singing song about that picture.
Okay.
Now the lamp will shift somewhere else. The audience's focus will go where the light goes now, and the Bhopa will shift his song. Now, who in this world in 2025 has time for 5 nights? Nobody. So, when we are talking about upgrading ourselves for the customer's need, say there's a group of foreigners who have come to Jaipur resort, who has time for only 45 minutes to 1 hour, and while they're devouring their lal mas, they're watching the performance. The performance is entertaining, of course, but it has customized only for
It's capsulated.
absolutely that 45 minutes, that 1 hour where you are trying to entertain them. You are highlighting only the important parts of your entire narrative.
It's like concising the actual thing into a.
Absolutely, and that's why the other parts are getting lost. So is for Bono Bibir Pala. Bono Bibir Pala used to happen for days, and now I remember where I grew up in my childhood, the Nam Shankirtan used to happen for 5 nights.
Yeah.
Somewhere it happens now for 3 nights. People don't have time, so
Yeah.
somewhere now it is happening for one night, and who knows, there will be a 45-minute Nam Shankirtan in the future. So while I agree that the modern storytelling revolution is better customized for the need of the 21st century, it's good because it will exist for longer, it is sustainable. But at the same time, we have to think what we are losing to so-called upgrade ourselves to, that really were important to us. What is the way to preserve the past while paving way to the future?
So in a way, it's I could say that stories develop stories, come in front of us. We hear stories because there is this gradual and very spontaneous migration of our lives that we travel from here to there, maybe we come back to a house. Maybe, as it is, human society is organically nomadic. People keeps on traveling. Uh, there was a point of time when we have heard about, in the medieval ages to the uh, till the end of 19th century, even 20th century, we could see uh, stories used to come, stories used to travel, and it's something like stories create a fictive expanse in our mind that stories are actually elements which comes from far away. Just as in northern India or central West India, we used to call the postal messengers as dakiya. The dakiyas used to come to the village, visit every household, and used to sit and tell a lot of things about the other cities, other villages, other places. Stories used to come up like that. In Bengal, we used to call them like horkora, the same postal
Dark
messenger.
Horkara.
Ah, the same postal messengers. So we can actually say that stories travel. There is a uh, essence of a traveler inside a storyteller. Do you travel, Priyanka?
Absolutely, and you have hit the soft spot that I have inside. Because I think I travel at least once a month.
Okay.
Yeah, and the beautiful part of my work is that I work pan India and also outside India. So my work makes me travel, and I think you will totally agree that now that we see so many influencers and vloggers who have made a nomadic life, who are digital nomads, who are working from home, and this home keeps changing very frequently. I remember I once were invited on a common platform to speak along with the Brown Van Life, and they are like having a lot of subscribers, and they are a brown couple who were traveling in a van
Yeah.
all over Mexico, and then they were planning entire South America. So they have traveled. I think this is like 4 years, 5 years back. They have traveled to 4 years back. They have traveled to many other places since then, and now I think this has become much more frequent after they started it. Now we are again seeing the wave of van life in India. A lot of people are starting to lead life in their vans because once again the concept of home is getting very messy and mucky. While you want to stay
I
at
think the ecological and economic transition is equally responsible for this
absolutely
getting
totally.
back to the nomadic life.
Yes, yes. And that's why you will see a lot of companies who are coming and selling vans. So, van is just a metaphor,
Right.
that how we all have a traveler inside us. And the beauty of travel is that storytelling makes me travel, and travel gets me stories. Because I remember most of the times I do solo traveling, and I was on a solo bicycling trip in Kashmir,
Okay.
and over there I was going through Bangus Valley, and I went to Kala Rouge. So Kala Rouge is a tunnel that goes from India to Russia,
Right.
and now a lot of people know about it. Maybe I assume a lot of people know about it better than before, because see the vlogs, the blogs that we watch or read or hear, even podcasts. But previously people didn't used to know about it, right? So much. Even now, not so much. So not so many people know about it. But I started my solo traveling back in 2011. So it's almost like 15 years. The bag has really become heavy, filled with stories, and ready to burst. So that's why, in the fear that it doesn't burst, the third beautiful part of traveling is that I keep sharing them so that my story bag doesn't burst.
Right.
Not for any other reason. So that way, traveling makes you meet new people. You share them the story of your last travel. You become friends. You travel to a new place together. So I think it is a compounding effect.
Right.
Like storytelling and traveling goes hand in hand. One complements the other. One brings more opportunity for the other.
Right.
Yeah.
So in a way, I could say that you keep on moving with a laboratory van of stories
Yeah.
from one place to other.
I have a term for it. I keep on telling, living out of a suitcase, or rather, living out of a backpack. Rather,
Wow, this is really hard hitting. I mean, impactful. Uh, I think the same way the seminars used to travel and tell stories to people. In a way, the Charans used to travel once upon a time and tell stories to people, and this is, I think, one of the best ways of intermingling and bridging with different cultures. So we could say storytelling is actually bridging the gaps between various cultures. In a way, it has its strong social impact. Now,
absolutely. And to that, there is a saying that once you hear somebody's story, it's very hard to hate that person because you really get to see the person in a new light. And then like, because I also work in corporate on DEI, so diversity, equity, inclusion. And over there, one of the major reasons, like for example, in say in Kannada, there is a Bengali that goes, and over there they cannot really speak Kannada, so they might be bullied. Same is a Kannada person comes to Bengal, and they might be bullied because they can't speak Bengali. But when you start getting the other person's story, then perhaps this gap between a Kannada and a Bengali, that gap gets breached. And that's why storytelling brings cultures together. And that's why in DEI initiatives, we keep telling the organization and the individuals, the employees, that why telling stories is so, so, so important. That whatever there is there in the surface, it's just a mask. But to get inside the mask, it's very important. The easiest way, like they say, the shortest distance between two people is a smile. But I believe the second shortest is a story.
Story. Right, so rightly said. I think if we are quite hopeful enough, the clannishness of regionalism, which is right now prevailing in our country, that we might actually get redeemed from this problem by storytelling, listening to stories, sharing stories.
Totally.
Now tell me, Priyanka, what is it that made you a storyteller?
So organic storytelling, it started 42 years back, as I mentioned. Professional storytelling started much later. In my standard 8 or 9, I was going regularly to Kolkata International Film Festival. I was still in school. I used to go in my school dress, and many of the movies were A. So, and my mother was my, partner in crime. So she will be like, she's in college. This is a college dress, and I'll be admitted there. I remember watching Two Women and many, many, many other movies, and I wanted to become a film director. And little did I realize that actually that was connecting me back to my storytelling journey. Later, during engineering, I was getting ready with my critical thinking, creative thinking, and design thinking processes. Once again, the first step of design thinking is nothing but storytelling. So, in a way, again, it connected me back to my storytelling journey. So, everything was building the space to who I am today. Later, when I did my MBA marketing, and I don't know how I grabbed a gold medalist tag.
Oh,
I don't really know still till date, but because I didn't like many subjects over there. But what I really liked was all the marketing subjects. Not systems, not finance, not HR, but marketing really connected me to the core. Later, I realized what is marketing. Marketing is nothing but different forms of storytelling brought under the
absolutely.
same umbrella.
Absolutely. If we get into a very basic form of marketing, what we see in our society, the hawkers who kind of travel and sell around their uh, products, their, I mean, itineraries, the way they present,
Absolutely.
it's a performance to see. A lot of
Totally.
the hawkers in the local trains, in the bus, their entire articulation presentation, it's absolutely,
Some
they
of
are
them are so
performers.
fascinating. So
Yes.
I have recorded some of those performances because they are one of the greatest storytellers that I know. And when I look into the MBA marketing journey, again, it connected me back to storytelling.
Right.
And later, before I finally became a professional storyteller, during my corporate journey, I used to be a product manager. I used to be a business analyst. And over there, I needed to really deal with the product story or the service story that is being told to different stakeholders and how it had different versions. For the vendor, one single version, for the client, another version, for the corporate communication, another version, and for the boss, for the subordinate, things changed haywire, right? So again, it connected back to storytelling. But this whole picture, having the bird's eye view, was not really clear to me. But later, when I joined the dots, I realized that I need to go back to where I belong. I need to tell stories, and not only that, by storytelling, I don't mean telling stories by myself, but helping people tell stories,
Right.
helping them to find their stories, helping them to harvest it, craft it, and present it by presenting not only oral storytelling, but presenting it in whichever way they want to. So this whole cycle, I think, realizing this, that is what got me thinking that I really want to study storytelling further. But in India, I didn't find anything long term, and that takes me to the depths of story consulting more than, because in India, whatever I saw, it was performative storytelling. But I wanted to go beyond performative storytelling and oral storytelling. I, of course, wanted to use components of that, but wanted to dig deep. So I went to International School of Storytelling, Emerson College in United Kingdom, to study storytelling, and I didn't look back.
Right.
So perhaps the entire journey is what has shaped
So it's
the
a combination
storytelling.
of a lot of things, a lot of diversified acceptances, contributions, reactions, resilience. It's very interesting. I mean, your entire experience is actually a story. So the story and the storyteller, they are both supplementary to each other.
Thank you so much.
Do you think, Priyanka, social media has got a strong impact on scientific modern storytelling?
Yes, yes, and yes, even though I don't want to recognize because I don't have a YouTube, or I have an Insta channel, but it is not meant to go viral. I just only keep on logging stuff.
Right.
So I don't put in effort for developing the content or working for the algorithm. But and that's why I am not a social media storyteller. At the same time, I really thrive from the energy, from the live performances and stories of real people. And after crafting the stories, when they see the the entire trajectory of transformation, that where they told their initial story and where it lies today, the huge journey that it has undergone, the smile that I see from in their faces, I really thrive from that I don't find on social media. And hence I am not really a digital storyteller, but at the same time it's not about me. It is about, again, the customer, what the customer wants. While oral storytelling, while live storytelling can thrive in a nice cozy boutique setting, which I love, at the same time the need to reach many people in a very quick time, there's nothing better than social media. And when I because I work, I work in the capacity as an advisor or as a consultant to many of the not-for-profits, charities, and I help them craft their stories. I have seen how they have really benefited from social media, that telling a story of a single person, their journey, and what change they have undergone, and how it has attracted a lot of funding, or some kind of benefit, may not be in cash but in kind. They have the person was sent abroad to study per se, or something, some other change was brought to life. So if social media storytelling was not there, this won't be there, right? At the same time, I am thinking about the recent movie called Stolen in Netflix. And whatever was shown there, and I am forgetting the name of the another movie where the girl was running from the marriage, and then he met a journalist, and they were trying to run away from the venue. They traveled all the way to another city, maybe to Jaipur, I think, or somewhere. But at the end, they couldn't survive. Courtesy social media storytelling. Because even in Stolen, the same thing was shown, that how now social media storytelling is capturing your photo, your video, and then the entire narrative is given a tweak, is given a transformation, an unwanted transformation. Nobody is checking whether it's a real news or a fake news. And driven by that narrative, while it is good that people are gathering for blood donation in a matter of few hours, at the same time they are gathering to draw blood from the enemy's body
Right.
in a matter of few hours.
There's always the other side as well.
Yes, totally. And that other side is very scary, because in whenever a judgment is passed, they say that thousands of people committing sin can go unattended, unpunished, but not a single innocent person should be suffering. So that way the entire, and the now the entire world politics is very skewed. This whole social media storytelling really scares heck out of me, because people now, they have become masters of crafting narratives.
More of sensation rather than stories.
Yes.
So, Priyanka, talking to you, conversing with you, I quietly feel that storytelling to you has delved out of theses and antitheses. You have been through an entire process, and I personally felt that you have been harnessing storytelling and fostering storytelling in its own science, with its own scientific mannerism and mechanism.
Thank you.
It was really interesting to talk to you, and I really wish that you keep on traveling with your bags and baggages, filling up stories, and crossing miles and miles more.
And make sure it doesn't get heavy enough. So I have to keep sharing
Right.
the stories like I shared with you today. Thank you for listening, and thank you for the lovely questions.
Most welcome, Priyanka. I really thank you, and good wishes. I do convey the good wishes from our audiences and on behalf of Obo Vinyls. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Dear listeners, we heard the story. How a story, from the micro to the macro spaces in our lives, our social participations and engagements are derived from stories that eventually fosters more stories. In one word, it's the stories that drives us. Stories sustain our existence. Stories are but an oxygen for us to live. So, as I bid farewell for the day, I would like to remind you that we will be coming back with more such stories only on Obo. Till then, stay well, stay in peace, and stay tuned to Obo.